Hello, this is Congressman Tom McClintock. For 6 weeks now, the long-suffering people of Iran have taken to the streets to confront the thugocracy that has oppressed them for more than 40 years. These demonstrations erupting in cities across the nation are led largely by women, whom the Islamo-fascist regime treats as property. The flashpoint was the murder of Mahsa Amini, who was seized by the morality police for not wearing her hijab correctly and apparently was bludgeoned to death for it. In the days that have followed, scores, if not hundreds, of unarmed Iranians have been gunned down by the Islamic Guard merely for removing their hijabs or shouting their opposition to this oppressive and illegitimate regime. They're just the latest victims among the many, many thousands that the mullahs have killed over the decades. Iran is one of the oldest and greatest civilizations in history, and for all of its monarchical problems, it was one of the most free, advanced, prosperous, and open countries in the Middle East, and it was a reliable American ally. Then came the revolution of 1979, when this progress abruptly ended with the era of theocratic despots who introduced a reign of terror that has gone on for decades. Now, twice before, Iranians were at the verge of overthrowing this regime. In 2009, as Iranians took to the streets during the so-called Green Movement, they looked to the United States for support, and yet they got only silence. In 2015, the Obama-Biden administration did something much worse. It sent $1.7 billion in cash to the mullahs on shrink-wrapped cargo pallets, and then they released $150 billion more in frozen assets, all in order to get a nuclear agreement that Iran never honored. Today, America must stand with the people of Iran. The regime in Tehran has been crystal clear about its intent to develop nuclear weapons and, once developed, to use them. There are only two ways this is going to end: either with a bloody world war or with the collapse of the regime. Congress and the President must speak out forcefully and act decisively, and they must do so now. House Resolution 118 has 257 co-sponsors representing both political parties. It expresses support for the Iranian resistance and its vision of a free, secular, and non-nuclear Iran. I urge the leadership to bring it to the floor for a vote the moment that Congress returns in November. Meanwhile, I urge the President to speak out clearly to the world community now. In response to the atrocities in Iran, President Biden must reimpose all sanctions on the Iranian regime and walk away from further talks on the JCPOA. Our Declaration of Independence proclaims that whenever a government becomes destructive of the natural rights of its people, it becomes the right of the people to alter or abolish it. This critical hour has come for the people of Iran, and this time, our president must speak clearly in their support from this great shining city on a hill. The Iranian people deserve much more than words of support, though. They also need action. I believe it's time for the United States to step forward with the material support for the freedom movement. For every dollar Obama gave this brutal dictatorship, we owe many times over to the Iranians who are desperately trying to overthrow it and to restore the blessings of liberty for themselves and their posterity. They need direct satellite access to the internet that the regime has denied them on the ground. They need us to restore economic sanctions against the regime and U.S. leadership in a renewed boycott of Iran. They need the voice of America to express unqualified support for the resistance movement in Iran. Decisive turning points in history do not come often. When history commands, we must answer, and that answer will follow us far into the future. Thomas Paine told us that these are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from their duty, but he who stands it now deserves the thanks of man and woman. Too often the United States has shirked its responsibility at critical moments in Iran's history. This time, in this hour, let the United States take its stand with the people of Iran, and by so doing fulfill those proud words on the Liberty Bell, to proclaim liberty throughout all the land and unto all the inhabitants thereof.